With less than 5 months to go until Election Day and the polls neck and neck, the threat of a second Trump term looms large. We talk about it a lot on this show. But as the New York Times reports, progressive groups say they have learned their lesson from 2016, or learned a lot of lessons, I should say, from 2016. They've already started putting plans in place to resist an anti-democratic, authoritarian Trump agenda. Joining me now are the heads of two of those groups. Patrick Gaspard is the president and CEO of the Center for American Progress Action Fund, and Anthony Romero is the executive director of the American Civil Liberties Union. You both are so busy. I so appreciate you taking the time tonight. I think this is so important for people to hear about and understand. So, Patrick, let me start with you. You talked about how we have to, quote, democracy-proof our institutions. I think that's a great phrase, and values in preparation for a second Trump term. Talk to me about what that looks like. What does it mean to democracy-proof our institutions?
Jen, thanks for having us on, and thanks for being a bulwark for democracy every single night on the air. I think that I understated the level of the threat. Instead of just democracy-proofing, given some of the things that we've heard from Donald Trump and from the very weak Speaker of the House who's willing to go along with his plans, we may need to fireproof our democracy. What does that mean? There are a set of norms that we have taken for granted over decades, over actually centuries of American democratic governance that we now understand are not baked into law, but we need to find ways to harden. Right now, the Biden administration has done a commendable job of lifting up rules in the administration to strengthen the civil service, for instance, because we know that there is an active threat from Project 2025 that's directed at federal workers because they intend to weaponize the agencies and to put their political appointees in to kind of dismantle the architecture of democracy in those agencies. But it also means, Jen, that this time we need greater coordination between federal officials like senators and Congress members and mayors and governors, not just in blue states, but in those purple states as well. We know from recent practice that red state governors have been lifting up all kinds of litigation in like egregious ways against the federal government. But if this threat comes to be, we're going to need governors to step forward and mayors as well to push litigation against actual constitutional threats that we're facing. And then the last thing I'll say, Jen, is that folks like Anthony Romero and I and so many of the other groups that are interviewed in that Times piece need to kind of create a spine for our democracy and a real network, and can't just go after this thing like a whack-a-mole issue after issue, but lift up a broader conversation about democracy with American citizens that leads us to putting up real scaffolding around our norms, our values, and those institutions themselves.
Spine for our democracy. That's a very good phrase, Patrick. I like it. So, Anthony, let me ask you about one of those pieces of litigation. Well, what's clear from this article, which I think all of us know, is the ACLU is working on a lot. And one of the pieces in this article talks about how the ACLU is preparing litigation that would challenge the Insurrection Act, which is something that, frankly, scares people, the potential for that. If Donald Trump tried to send troops into American cities, say. Talk to me a little bit about how, it's a litigation apparatus or effort. How concerned are you about that possibility? And what does that look like, that effort that the ACLU is kind of preparing at this point in time?
So, thank you, Jen. And I'm glad to be here with Patrick and colleagues to talk to you about what we're doing. First, most importantly, we have to move beyond admiring the problem. There's no time for hand-wringing. There's no way. We need to spend much more time than just identifying the threats. We need to lay out a plan for what if the worst threats were to come to pass. And in litigation takes time. You've got to think through the theories, you got to think through the venues, what types of clients, where you would file, what are the best cases to run the gauntlet on. And part of that work we're doing now. And we're mapping out across all these different issue areas, how do we amass the legal theories and the tactics and the strategies, and then the relationships with other organizations, like the Center for American Progress with Patrick and others, about dividing and conquering. And it's going to be way too much for any one organization to handle on its own. The last time around, the ACLU brought 434 legal actions against the Trump administration. We were the David to the government's Goliath, and we were up against everything we had. And yet we will not be prepared. Even as much as we prepare now, we won't be ready to meet the full firepower of this government. Donald Trump gets a second term in office, he will have enormous powers. They're going to be much more rigorous. They're going to go for the jugular. He's going to be the redemption that he promises about making sure that he follows through on all of his threats. And so we've got to be ready. And so that's what our lawyers right now are mapping out the cases, the theories. We're publishing them in a series of memos that we have on our website. We've already issued 2, one on immigration, a second one on LGBT rights, literally laying out a game plan for what do we do to fight these abuses if they come to pass.